Let me tell you something that took me years to unlearn. You have been taught to manage money. And that single instruction, manage your money, is quietly the most expensive piece of advice ever handed to the working class. Think about that for a second. Managing money. What does that even mean? It means you are tending to something that already exists, arranging it, protecting it, moving it around carefully so it doesn't run out before the month ends. That is not wealth. That is maintenance. And the problem with maintenance is that you can do it perfectly, flawlessly, every single day, and still end up in exactly the same financial position you started in 5 years ago. There are people right now, competent, disciplined, intelligent people who have been managing their money for a decade. They track every expense. They avoid unnecessary purchases. They do everything the personal finance blogs told them to do. And they are not poor, but they are not building anything either. They are financially treading water, staying afloat, surviving. And here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. Surviving is just a slower version of losing, because while you're managing, something else is happening. The cost of housing is rising. The real purchasing power of your saved cash is eroding. The gap between asset owners and non-asset owners is widening, not because the wealthy are working harder, but because money itself behaves differently depending on where it lives. And if your money is only living in a savings account or a current account at a bank, you need to hear what I'm about to tell you because it changes everything. Here's the first thing they never taught you in school. Your bank is running a business, and you, every single one of you with a deposit account, are an essential part of that business, not as a customer, as inventory. Your deposit, the 500, the 2,000, the 10,000 sitting in your account, is not being stored for you like gold in a vault. The moment that money enters the bank, it becomes a liability on their books. They owe you that money on demand, but that same money simultaneously becomes the raw material for their most profitable operation. They lend it out, not once, multiple times, at interest rates anywhere from 8 to 30% depending on the product, a mortgage, a car loan, a personal loan, a business line of credit. That money flows from your account, gets multiplied through fractional reserve banking, and earns the bank a return that dwarfs anything they will ever pay you in interest. Last year, a major retail bank reported net interest income of over $14 billion in a single quarter, not the year, one quarter. That income is the spread, the difference between what they pay you to hold your money and what they charge borrowers to use it. You earn maybe 2% on a savings account. They lend it at 12%. The spread is their profit. You are the raw material. Now, I'm not saying banks are evil. I'm saying the architecture of the financial system was designed with a very clear logic, and if you do not understand that logic, you will always be on the wrong side of it. The person who understands the system doesn't get angry at how it works. They get very, very interested in how to use it. And that shift from frustration to curiosity is the first daily habit I need you to build. More on that in a moment. Stay with me because what comes next is where the real money psychology lives. Let me give you a scenario that's happening in millions of households right now. Brooke is 34. She earns $62,000 a year. By every visible metric, she's doing okay. She drives a decent car, financed, $36,000 over 5 years. She has a good apartment, $1,800 a month in rent. She puts about $300 a month in a savings account. She has a credit card with a $15,000 limit that she uses for everything, groceries, fuel, subscriptions, because it earns her reward points. She pays it off every month. She considers herself responsible. Here's what Brooke doesn't see. That financed car at 7.9% APR is costing her an extra $6,000 over the loan term just in interest, money that evaporated and built nothing. The $1,800 in rent is her single largest monthly transfer of wealth to someone else's asset portfolio. The landlord's net worth is growing every month. Brooke's is not. And the credit card, the rewards card she's so disciplined about paying off, is conditioning her brain to view spending spending as productive. Points feel like a return. They're not. A return is income. Points are a loyalty program designed to increase card usage and keep her emotionally attached to a debt instrument. Brooke is not building wealth. She's funding 3 other people's balance sheets with extraordinary consistency. Brooke is not irresponsible. Brooke is uninformed. And the cost of financial ignorance is not paid all at once. It's paid daily, in small, invisible increments, until one day you're 53 years old wondering why your salary never seemed to be enough, no matter how much it grew. That's the trap. Not poverty, not crisis, comfortable stagnation. The financial quicksand where the harder you work inside the existing structure, the deeper you sink. Because the structure itself is not designed to help you accumulate. It's designed to facilitate your consumption. So what breaks it? Not budgeting apps, not cutting coffee. I'm going to give you a framework. 5 daily disciplines that, when stacked together, compound into structural wealth over time. Not get rich quick, structural, the kind that doesn't collapse when you lose a job or a market correction hits. But first, if this is the conversation about money you have been looking for, hit like and subscribe. Then drop a comment below. Tell me where you are right now financially. Are you in Brooke's situation? Are you further along? Are you just starting? I read those comments, and the next videos in this series go even deeper based on exactly where you are. Now let's continue. The first daily discipline is what I call the capital lens. Every single morning, before you open your work email, before you scroll anything, you spend 3 minutes asking one question. Where is capital moving today? And am I on the receiving side or the sending side? That is it. 3 minutes, one question. What this does is retrain the brain to see money as a flow rather than a static resource. Most people interact with money reactively. The bill arrives and they pay it. The salary arrives and they spend it. The emergency arrives and they panic. The capital lens forces a proactive relationship with every financial decision. You start to see that your gym membership is a one-directional flow to a business. Your savings account is a near-zero return flow to a bank. Your mortgage, if you have one, is a multi-directional flow where you are paying interest to a lender and building equity simultaneously. Some flows are investments. Some are pure costs. Some feel like investments but are costs in disguise. Over 30 days, this single habit will restructure how you think about money. Not because you are doing anything differently yet, because awareness always precedes action. You cannot redirect what you cannot see. The second discipline is income architecture. The average person has one income source, a single node of financial input. That is not just economic vulnerability, it's a structural design flaw. Every major wealth study shows that the individuals in the top 10% of net worth almost universally hold multiple diversified income streams. Not because they're greedy, because diversification is how systems survive disruption. If you ran a business that derived 100% of its revenue from a single client, any advisor would call that catastrophic risk concentration. Your personal income is a business. A single employer buying all of your time and skills is catastrophic risk concentration. The same logic applies. So the second daily discipline is spending 15 minutes every day building your second income source. Not brainstorming, actually building. Writing one page of a digital product, sending one outreach message to a potential freelance client, deepening a skill that commands higher market rates. 15 minutes a day is 90 hours a year. 90 focused hours applied to a single income-generating skill will produce results. Skills compound, outputs compound. The question is never whether you have time. The question is whether those 15 minutes are building something or disappearing into nothing. The third discipline is the friction audit. Every month, money is leaving your accounts through what I call low-awareness transactions. The $12 subscription you forgot about, the annual software renewal you used once, the streaming platform you pay for fully but shared with 3 people, the gym auto-billing you after 11 weeks of absence. None of these are catastrophic individually. Together, they represent the systematic removal of what behavioral economists call the pain of paying. When a transaction is automated, the psychological friction that would normally trigger reconsideration is completely bypassed. That discomfort, that brief hesitation before handing over money, is your brain's natural wealth protection mechanism. Autopay was engineered to eliminate it. Once a month, spend 20 minutes auditing every recurring charge. Not to eliminate all spending. Spending that improves your life or generates return is rational. The audit ensures every automated outflow is a conscious choice, not a ghost from a decision you made 14 months ago. People who do this consistently recover between $80 and $250 a month in forgotten spending. At the low end, that's nearly $1,000 a year. Redirect it into a compounding position that grows without your further involvement. The friction audit does not require earning more, it requires seeing more clearly what you already earn. The fourth discipline is the asset first rule. This is where the real wealth psychology lives. Every person who has studied how wealth actually accumulates, not how it's performed, but how it's built, finds the same pattern. Assets are acquired before lifestyle is expanded, not after, not simultaneously, before. The psychological default runs the opposite direction. Earn more, spend more, save what's left. The asset first rule inverts this completely. When income arrives, the first transaction is always the acquisition of something that grows or generates income. Everything else is funded from what remains. This is not a budgeting philosophy. It's a sequencing philosophy. The order of financial operations determines the outcome far more than the amounts involved. A person earning $40,000 a year who sequences correctly, assets first, lifestyle second, will build more real wealth over a decade than someone earning $80,000 who sequences incorrectly. One is compounding, the other is consuming. There's no contest over time. Practically, this means on the day your income lands, before rent, before groceries, a percentage moves immediately into an asset. A low-cost index fund, a brokerage account purchasing fractional shares of a broad market ETF, a savings account earmarked exclusively for a future income-producing asset. 5% is a legitimate starting point. The percentage matters less than the habit, because the habit trains the brain to treat asset acquisition as non-negotiable, the same way rent is non-negotiable. The money exits before you can psychologically spend it, before lifestyle inflation claims it, before the month escapes. The fifth and final discipline is financial study, daily without exception. 30 minutes a day, not news, not commentary, actual financial literacy. How equity markets function, how debt instruments are structured, how inflation interacts with different asset classes, how tax structures are used legally by high net worth individuals to retain more of what they earn. This information is not arcane, it's not reserved for finance professionals. It exists in books, courses, and publicly accessible documents. The reason the wealth gap persists is not that this information is hidden, it's that most people never go looking for it, because nobody told them it was their job to find it. Financial ignorance is not a neutral condition. Every year you do not understand how the system functions is a year the system functions against you by default. Banks profit from your deposits. Marketers profit from your impulses. Employers profit from your labor. None of these parties are malicious. They are operating in rational self-interest within a system they understand. The only way to stop being the raw material in someone else's operation is to understand the operation well enough to build your own. 30 minutes a day, one book every 3 weeks, 12 to 15 books a year. In 3 years, your financial literacy will be in a completely different percentile, not because intelligence changed, because information did. Now, here is where these 5 disciplines converge into something most people never experience: optionality. Optionality is the ability to say no. No to a job that underpays you because the second income source has grown enough to cover your essentials. No to a financial product that doesn't serve you because you understand what it actually costs. No to a lifestyle that looks impressive from the outside but leaves you one emergency away from collapse because the asset-first rule has been running quietly in the background for 3 years and there is now a foundation beneath you that did not exist before. Poverty, in the fullest sense, not just the absence of money, but the absence of options, is maintained by structural disadvantage and information deficit. The structural disadvantage is real, but the information deficit is the lever. The moment you understand how capital actually moves, you stop being a passive participant in a system that was not designed with your interests as the priority. You start building deliberately, daily, quietly. The capital lens in the morning, 15 minutes on the second income source, the friction audit once a month, the asset first transfer the moment income lands, 30 minutes of financial study before you consume anything else. None of these are painful. None require sacrifice in the conventional sense. They require reorientation, a shift from the financial habits of the majority, who are managing, treading water, funding other people's balance sheets, to the habits of the minority, who are building, compounding, and accumulating options. This is not a guarantee. Markets move, economies contract, life disrupts plans, but the person who does these 5 things every single day is building a financial architecture that becomes increasingly resistant to disruption, less dependent on a single income, less vulnerable to invisible costs, more options at every decision point, and over time, with compounding doing what compounding does, staying poor becomes structurally, mathematically, almost impossible. Not because luck changed, because the daily inputs changed. Start today, not Monday, not next month. Pick one of the 5 disciplines before you close this video and execute it in the next 24 hours. The capital lens costs 3 minutes tomorrow morning. The friction audit costs 20 minutes this weekend. The 15-minute income building session costs nothing but the decision to begin. The gap between where you are and where you want to be financially is not made of money. It is made of daily habits you have not yet built. Build them, and the trajectory changes, not overnight, but inevitably.